Greetings, people of the interwebs. Jake here. As if you can't already tell by my voice, I'm still a little under the weather from getting my ass kicked by a sinus infection. But anywho, so as you can tell by the title of this video, the question is, did the elves commit genocide? For those of you who have not, or have only watched like the Lord of the Rings movies or even read the books, this might seem like an odd question because they're kind of portrayed as like these very ethereal, wise, sophisticated beings, and almost like superior compared to the other races. Like the dwarves, hobbits, and men. Which actually hobbits are a kind of an offshoot of men. But digressing. But if you read the Silmarillion, then you would know that that's very possible because First Age elves are crazy. And you would also know that. Well, okay, so basically, short answer is yes. The elves, the Noldor in particular, did commit genocide. So, also, like, for those of you who don't know what the Noldor are, there's several different kind of like, I guess, types of elves, tribes, whatever you want, clans, whatever you want to call them. But the Noldor are kind of like one of the older and more powerful. I guess is the simplest way to put it. So like Galadriel, she's in Noldor. Círdan, the shipwright's in Noldor. Two of the oldest, wisest elves in Middle Earth, and then also Elrond is a descendant of the Noldor as well. Just to name a few examples. So anywho, so to answer the question on how the Noldor committed genocide and on who, again, for those of you who have not read the Silmarillion, so basically, flash back all the way to the First Age, and a little bit of context and history lesson. So the elves were the first to awake in Cuiviénen. So that's the very far east of the continent of Middle Earth. And so basically, in the First Age, they eventually made their way into Beleriand, which is the far western part of Middle Earth. And, they were doing their, elf stuff for a while, just kind of enjoying, well, not quite enjoying, because, Morgoth, but that's a whole separate thing that I could go into. And so basically, they were the only ones there, until, I don't know the exact time frame, so I'm sure someone who's more familiar with the exact time frame could probably point this out in the comment section. But anyways, so at some point in the First Age, the petty dwarves make their way into Beleriand. So the petty dwarves, Tolkien didn't write a whole lot about them, but there's speculated that they're like an eighth house of the dwarves, because basically there were 7 houses of the dwarves, like the Longbeards, Broadbeams, just to name a couple. But most of the dwarves we know are the members of the Longbeards. But digressing. So anywho, so the petty dwarves, they're a little bit shorter in stature, not quite as stout, not as sociable, and not quite as talented with smithing and craft work as the other 7 houses of dwarves. But anywho, so for whatever reason, they were kind of cast out from the other houses of dwarves and made their way into Beleriand. And they were the first dwarves to make their way into Beleriand, before later dwarves followed. So anywho, shortly after the petty dwarves make their way into Beleriand, the elves, they're the first ones to see the petty dwarves. These are the first sentient beings that they've seen, which to them they don't really see them as sentient beings. They see them more akin to beasts. So they immediately just start killing them. No questions asked, just shoot to kill, and ask questions later, or don't. I don't think they really stopped to ask a lot of questions. They were just kind of like, ew, this is different, it's gross, kill it. And so, probably for a good couple hundred years, we'll say, because again, I don't know the exact time frame, the exact span of time that took place, but I'm gonna say the petty dwarves probably spent a good chunk of time in Beleriand before the genocide started happening. But basically, for however long it took, and I guess also a little side tangent here. So this is also one of the reasons why the dwarves and elves have such bitter resentment, is once the dwarves, the other dwarves, made their way into Beleriand and found out about this, they were pissed off, because I guess their logic was kind of like, hey, I know those guys suck, and we didn't like them, that's why we kicked them out, but you can't kill them. If anybody's going to do the killing, it's going to be us. So I guess funny enough, that's one of the reasons, among many, why there's a lot of distrust and strong disliking of between the elves and dwarves. But anywho, so even in the same first age, because the first age is the shortest time period in Tolkien's work, so shorter than the second age and third age. So basically, the only petty dwarves we come across, which actually the petty dwarves is what the elves called them, because the petty dwarves, I forget what they refer to themselves in Khuzdul, which is the dwarvish language, but basically it translated to moon dwarves. But anyway, because obviously, why would you call yourselves petty dwarves? That's a little insulting. But of course, that's what the elves called them, because elves. But yeah, so basically, the only time we really meet any of the petty dwarves is in the Children of Hurin story, where Turin comes across the three last petty dwarves, which is Mime and his two sons, Keen and Ibun. So, not going to go into that because that's a whole other thing. But basically, at this point, still in the first age, so we'll say, for the sake of example, 200 years have passed since the petty dwarves first entered Beleriand, and in that time span, the elves just straight up murdered them until there were only three left. And that's kind of why Mime and his two sons are pretty bitter, because they're the last of their kind. None left. Just them. And they've kind of been forced to live like a pretty rough life. So kind of understandable. They don't really like elves. But basically, even at this point, so again, not going to go into all the details of like the Children of Hurin story. It's probably my favorite of the Great Tales, and it's also a really dark story, very bleak. So if you're kind of looking for like a more different story from Tolkien, Children of Hurin is pretty solid. Just again, very very dark, very bleak. But anywho, so in that story, minor spoilers. The three last petty dwarves are slain, and the petty dwarfs cease to exist. So, yeah, the short answer was yes, the Noldor straight up committed genocide, and they don't seem to have a whole lot of remorse about it, because the thing with the Silmarillion is, which is where a lot of the First Age, actually where all the First Age stuff takes place, in detail, because there's some stuff mentioned in the appendices of the Return of the King, but if you want to get in the nitty-gritty, the Silmarillion is where to go. But so the first half of the Silmarillion is basically told from the perspective of the elves, and so basically, there's the mention of the petty dwarves, and of Mime and his two sons, Keem and Ibun, but then they kind of just gloss over. It's like, yeah, we killed some dwarves, but anyways, moving on. And that's pretty much it. No real, I didn't get a sense of like remorse or regret or anything other than them just kind of blatantly being like, yeah, some dwarves died, but whatever. Moving on. So yeah, there you go. The Noldor committed genocide and seemingly don't seem to care all that much. So, well, I was going to say, hopefully you enjoyed this video, but I can't imagine genocide is something that people should enjoy. But hopefully you found this an interesting video, because I've been trying to do some more Tolkien-related videos, because the last two that I've done have done quite well viewership-wise for this tiny channel. And I also enjoy it, so expect more Lord of the Rings and Tolkien-related videos. And I'm going to try to, I guess, do slightly different videos compared to the actual Tolkien YouTubers, because as far as I know, could be wrong, because I'm sure there's a ton of them out there, but I don't know if any of them have covered the Elvish genocide of the petty dwarves, and that was something that just kind of dawned on me, and yeah, I just thought it needed to be addressed. So yeah, hopefully you found this video interesting, because if you're enjoying genocide, you may need to rethink your life, and you might have some problems. But anywho, yeah, And if you have suggestions for other Tolkien Middle Earth related videos you would like to see discussed or brought up that aren't normally brought up, leave those suggestions below in the comment section. Or if you were not aware of the Elvish genocide, leave comments below. And, do the usual YouTube-y stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, everyone, cheers.